Song Revolution with John Chisholm on the NRT Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, John here. Welcome back to Song Revolution. I'm really excited about this episode this week because I got to sit down and have a little chat with Aaron Williams. Aaron is a mentor, pastor, amazing songwriter, and worship leader who's been part of Shane and Shane's worship initiative for a lot of years. He's part of a ministry called Dwell. He's part of 10K Family, Fathers and Mothers. Interesting, you'll just have to listen to the show to find out what that is. But this guy is all about building the kingdom of Jesus Christ and increasing worship in the earth. We just had a delightful talk about his journey, where he's come from, what he's all about with the worship initiative. He's been featured on a lot of their recordings, and now he has his own full-length, incredible worship album, and he performs one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard called The Now and the Not Yet. Oh, I love this song. I'm obsessed with this song, and I think you're going to really enjoy it, and he does a beautiful acoustic version of it for us at the end of the show. But I think you're going to really just kind of be drawn into a sense of worship and just love for God in a fresh way as you enjoy this conversation with Aaron. I mean, this is the real deal. He's not just trying to be a recording artist out there getting his songs out. He's pouring into thousands and thousands of people, young people in particular, to help raise them up in worship ministries. But before we get into the show, I want to welcome our new sponsor, Music City Acoustics. So I went after Music City Acoustics to let me brag on their amazing work because they helped me trick out my new studio here at the office. I call it the Chiz Pod, and it's just off the chains. No more post-production hassles with a slap-happy room. I have this beautiful, clean sound that's like recording my show in the closet, only with a lot more room and I can breathe. Well, Music City Acoustics craftsmanship is superb, and I was crazy to ever consider a do-it-yourself sound treatment. They not only create the highest quality sound panels, bass traps, and other acoustical treatments, but these guys will work directly with you to create a design that vastly improves the sonic quality of your home studio, your office, your church, and even your Winnebago. Just give Music City Acoustics a call and they'll get you fixed up with a special deal if you mention the Chiz Pod when you place your first order. That's Music City Acoustics, another homegrown family business right here in my hometown of Nashville. Their information is in the show notes, so do your ears a favor. Reach out now. So check out this episode. I think you're going to really enjoy hearing worship leader and my new best friend, Aaron Williams. Aaron Williams, welcome, man, to Song Revolution.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, just congratulations. What a big day for you.
Yeah.
You made it from Dallas. That's always a big day, right?
It is a big day. Yeah, we made it here semi on time. So thanks for having me.
When the flights land like they should, that's always a good thing, right?
It is.
So this is release day, and you're not new to recording. I mean, the Worship Initiative recordings and everything that you're up to. I mean, this isn't new, but is this your first big, like,
it's my first release under my own name. So that's what feels different about this one is I've always written and recorded under, whether it was my church or a band I was in, which is what I released most of my earliest music under. And then, so this is my first release under my name, and it's weird because it feels like, my first project ever and also like my seventh or eighth at the same time. So,
yeah. What feels new about it?
It's a new team. I moved to Dallas a year ago this week to join up with the Worship Initiative.
Right.
And the vision was to help create a community of songwriters and to write from out of that community. And so a few of the songs on this record come from prior to that community, but most of them have come from that last season. And so it just feels fun to be releasing music with the team and with people that, some of them have already released records and I've gotten to champion them and spur them on. And then now, my day to release has come. And so it just feels encouraging. It feels like I'm not as by myself as I have on a few other projects, which is not a bad thing, but I feel super grateful.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
You've been in transition. Did you say just a year ago you moved
Yeah, a
to
year ago
Dallas?
this week. Yeah, I've
Okay.
got wife and 2 little boys, so
Mhm.
we packed up in Arkansas, Little Rock,
Oh, yeah.
moved 5 hours down the road to North Dallas.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I say moving with young kids is not for the faint of heart.
Mm-mm.
It was
Having kids, period. is-
yeah, seriously. But yeah, readjusting to new life, new location, new friends, new church, all of that has been so good, but it's been tiring at times. I feel like
Sure.
it took us at least 6 or 8 months to just get our feet back underneath us.
Well, you just keep creating things. I mean, you're a songwriter and
Yeah.
a worship leader and that demanding schedule, but you've got the 10K fam, you've
Yeah.
got, is it Dwell?
Yep.
And you're part of the worship initiative, and you look a little tired, man. You want some
Yeah.
coffee or something?
I am a little tired. Mostly just because our team was at the lake all day yesterday, kind of
Okay,
celebrating that
gotcha.
1-year anniversary. So we got back.
Gotcha.
We had a long, super fun lake day.
Mhm.
Got back last night, early flight out. But
Yeah, right.
yeah, it has been a lot this last year. Thankfully, I feel like our life is simplifying some. Like all of
Mm.
those are coming underneath the worship initiative now. So like my projects and just writing relationships and all that is like, I'll still be traveling, but it'll be a little bit less, one place to
Oh,
the
that's
other.
cool.
Yeah.
And Worship Initiative is with Shane Bernard. Both
Yeah,
Shanes?
both Shanes.
Both Shanes?
Yep, they started it and started just as a resourcing company they have a website,
Mm-hmm.
lots of subscribers.
Yeah, I've been cruising
just,
on that.
yeah,
Yeah,
helping
really good stuff.
helping resource worship leaders and various people in their churches who with lots of practical training, but also some like heart-oriented training as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the most recent endeavors to try to create a writing community, start having original music come out of that. And
Yeah.
so we 3 of us came on to that, to help initiate it alongside both of the Shanes. So,
Okay.
yeah.
The 3 of you being
Davey Flowers, John Mark Cole, and myself.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so we're on the artist team alongside the Shanes, and Shane Bernard's wife, Beth, is also an artist on the team. Released a great album this last year. So it feels like a
cool.
dream come true in a lot of ways, honestly. It's
Well,
been good.
the connective tissue that I see in it is that it feels very pastoral.
Yeah, it
like
is.
you really care.
Yeah.
You and the people you're associated with are really seeking to maybe bypass some of the glitz and glamour of the music business, which the
Yeah.
Double Shanes, man, and they lived and are still living such a great career, but it
Yep.
doesn't feel glitzy and glamorous. If you get a dove, well, cool, that's fine, but
Yep.
it feels so authentic and genuine, and your commitment to write quality lyrics is what's so endearing to me.
Oh, yeah.
And before you arrived here for the recording today, I've been through Now and Not Yet. My wife is like, "Are you gonna just leave that playing all day?" And it's
Wow.
like, "Oh my gosh."
There's a story behind that
Well,
one,
you got to
but
tell it, and I don't know if you're prepared to do that one today, but man,
Yeah.
I am smitten with that song. I
Wow.
mean, the quality of that, just the symmetry of those verses and the
Yeah.
payoff of "I'll trust you, I'll trust you, I'll
Yeah.
trust you." I'm tearing up in the Now and Not Yet. It's just, man, that has just really encouraged my heart today.
Yeah, wow, thank you.
Tell
Well,
that
it means a
story,
lot
yeah.
that you would say that because I early on just felt really drawn to both the music and the lyric aspect of songwriting, but just had mentors in my life really encouraged me to like, when you really like dig in, like you have something to say. And when I was young and writing, I think that was my insecurity, do I really have something worth saying? And so it's been so like encouraging to me that just that little thing that people call out in you, like people around you see it, maybe even more than you do at times, and they encourage it. And somehow that's become, a trademark, if you will, of some of the songs that I write, is they tend to have an honesty to them. Now, but not yet. It's a very honest kind of.
Who did you write that with? Did you write that yourself?
That's just the only song on the
Okay.
record that I wrote by
Dude,
myself.
well, I tell you what, I am in awe. I just honor you. Kudos, man. That is a treasure.
Thank you.
Treasure.
That song, if John Mark, my teammate, were here, he'd be laughing at me because I remember having the idea for that song, and we were going to a songwriting retreat later that week, and I said, "Hey, I've got this idea for this song. And I gave him like a few lines that I had the first couple lines going. And I was like, I'm going to hold on to it. We're going to write this in Colorado. We're going out to the Rocky Mountains to write. And I texted him at like 10 o'clock that night because my wife and kids were gone. Can't remember what they were doing, but I was just at home. And I had been walking through a fairly difficult few weeks. And I just, felt like I needed to write the song. And so I did. And it was one of those songs that I finished the whole song in probably an hour and a half, And there's other songs on the album that I probably finished in a year and a half.
Right.
And so, I'm actually really encouraged that you would point that one out because it's one of my favorite songs on the record as a writer, but also one of those that when you mention it doesn't have glitz or glamour, like the song doesn't have a massive arrival. It has the refrain of I'll trust you, but like it's kind of intentionally living in that tension.
Well, and what it did for me was it just brought me into a sweet moment of worship that, we're all going through stuff. I mean, the world, the obstacle is the way, right? I mean, we're going through stuff. God uses it and all that, but just to come back to that place where you can say, as you so beautifully said, I'll trust you with the now or in the now, not yet, those dreams and passions and all those things. And my dearest friend passed away in his sleep last Friday night. And so this week has been all about getting ready for his service on Saturday. And, no sickness that we knew of. His heart probably just blew out,
Man.
And in his sleep. And, you can't prepare for those things.
Yep.
Those are the things that his wife, even last night when we were talking with her, they live right here in the neighborhood. We moved to this neighborhood to be with them.
Yeah.
My dear friend for 34 years. And, she said, I've just got to put the questions aside right now.
Yep.
And questions can just overwhelm you and eat you alive.
Yeah.
Did God do this? Did God not do this? Did the devil do this? Who did this? Who are we going to blame? How can we figure this out? Really what it comes down to, Aaron, is control.
Yes.
We want to control this thing. And, trying to find some control in the chaos isn't all bad, but there are just times you're just not going to. And so for you to bring that message out in such a tender way, beautiful arrangement. I mean, kudos for you guys producing. I'm going to go ahead and say it, the snot out of that thing.
Well,
Dang,
I need to give my buddy Adam Westlake.
He did it.
There's a story. I should just tell you real briefly the story behind
Bring it.
this. I got a call, maybe similar to what you did with your friend. I got a call from my dad this was probably in early October, and it's kind of the call you never wanted to get. And he said, I could hear the fear in his voice. He said, we found your mom unresponsive. The paramedics are here. They live back in Arkansas now. So this is, 3 or 4 months after I move out of state. And thankfully the paramedics were able to get my mom's heart beating, but they were on the way to the hospital. And so I kind of go into crisis mode.
Sure you do.
Change all my plans, go back to Arkansas. And for the next few days, I'm sitting in a hospital room beside her, kind of just pleading with the Lord for her life, and my mom survived that moment. There's a lot of things going on in her story that led kind of to that spot. But it was in the weeks after that where it just got me contemplating that middle ground of like you're talking about, like there's this beautiful arrival of God's kingdom that we all know is here and now, and there's this inner ground, if you will, that we're living in where it's not fully here, and it's the land of questions almost, it's like, and out of that came, the first verse, you're the God of the breakthrough, which is what I was asking God for my mom's life. And then the next line, and the God of our defeats, or the God of not yet.
Yeah.
Defeats comes in verse 2.
Exactly.
And I was thinking about the story of the people of Israel, and just the moment where God parts the sea. It's a miraculous moment of breakthrough, literal breakthrough, and then he leads them into the wilderness. And he's not just involved in one of those two events.
Right.
He's involved in
Right.
both.
The devil didn't take them into the
Yeah.
wilderness,
Yeah. And you see that in Jesus' life,
Exactly.
when Jesus is baptized in the Jordan River, like the Father, Son, and Spirit are there. And then, as Mark recounts it, he is like swiftly taken into the wilderness. And so I was just grappling with that of just like, we walk through these moments in life where we just are caught in that middle ground, middle territory. And the questions, oftentimes there's not a lot of answers to. And so that's where the refrain came from, which was just, we just have to learn to trust the Father's heart in that, and knowing, which is easier said than done.
That's why there's faith, right?
Yeah, it is.
It is that faith. And I don't know, the way I grew up in Christ, I didn't come from a Christian home, so I didn't know the
Same.
Bible stories. I didn't know Sunday school. I didn't know music. Actually, I was raised in a musical home, but it was more bluegrass. My dad and mom loved everything from bluegrass to symphonic music. So I was exposed to all of it. My early heroes were people like ZZ Top and Jethro Tull and David Bowie and all those people. But when I came to Jesus as a young man, the first thing I wanted to do was write a song and express that. That was there. And that was before we called it worship leading. It was still music leading and all that, because I'm old, but that's okay. But it's amazing to see people such as yourself, the Shanes, Davey, and the other folks you're working with just really have a heart for spiritual lives of people. Because it's, you watch, I'm not down on anybody at all, and I don't want to go there at all.
Sure.
So many people that I talk to are, down on the worship thing or on CCM and all that. And I'm like, guys, there's so many people that are good. Yeah. There's so many people that are in this because they have a heart to see true spiritual growth. And, when I've been digging into who you are, to think about the 10K fam and Dwell, and now, this immersion into worship initiative, it's like, dude, you're doing that. And I know I'm kind of repeating a little bit, but trying to center on the authenticity of the body of Christ as opposed to your career and all that. And so,
well, it's almost like for me, if I'm going to fail at, and I don't even know what that would mean, but I think we're all afraid of, maybe most of us are afraid of failure in some sort, if not all of us. I just thought, if I'm going to fail, I want to fail trying to do something that I'm passionate about. And, I want to write songs that help, like that my sons would sing and would help them, or my family. And I don't think I would be the same way as you. Like, I'm not trying to be a downer, but, there's, at times it can be hard to find the song to sing in the dark night of the soul, so to speak, or that just like really help you wrestle with loss or grief or whatever. And yet when you open the pages of the Bible, and especially, the hymn book of the Bible, if you will, being the Psalms, it's like at least a third of the Psalms are laments of some sort.
Or they're imprecatory psalms. Yeah. Like, God, smash their babies on the rocks.
That's the one. Yeah. That's the one. And it's like,
oh my gosh.
And I think what I realize in that is the biblical authors are just not as afraid to be themselves and to be honest. Like, oftentimes I think we feel this pressure to, like, I've got to clean myself up and write a worship song that feels like I've cleaned myself up or whatever. And so then you find, like, I felt that pressure for a long time, and I just thought, man, I write songs that are for me, but they're not for other people because they feel a little bit outside of that box. And then people started responding to it, and I realized, like, okay, like maybe it's okay for me to be myself in this space. Yeah. But it was a journey for sure, because I felt the pressure, and I think a lot of songwriters feel the pressure to do what is.
Exactly. Just kind of fit the typical mold. But now you mentioned, as I did, you not growing up in a Christian home. How did you come to Christ, and what's that whole story?
I grew up in I would call it like a nominally Christian home. So like my parents were both believers, but we didn't really like practice the way of Jesus, if you will, in our home. We attended church when it was not football season because my dad was a high school
Exactly.
football coach.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, January through early summer we were pretty regular attenders. And then, you hit August through December and, we would fall off. And so I kind of picked up on that. I didn't really like church. It was boring. It's when my mom made me put on my uncomfortable shoes and clothes. And, to be honest, I didn't want much to do with it. And we got a new youth pastor. Like I was probably in middle school age, maybe early junior high. And he somehow found out that I played guitar. And kind of like you, I had no reference for leading worship, anything like that. He just found out I played guitar and invited me to be in the band, And long story short, I just really encountered God through worship initially, like through songs. And didn't even really know I was musically gifted. I knew I could play guitar, would start singing. And so when I met Jesus, I would say like through worship, like that ended up having a profound impact on the way that like I started to view the church.
What does that really mean to you, though, meeting Jesus? That's
I
such
know. Well, that's
a generic thing, but what does that really feel like, or what was that like?
It was, the reason I use that term is because it was initially experiential for me more than it was like a doctrinal agreement. It went in that order for me. It became understanding of the Christian faith. But I just remember the moment I remember vividly was sitting on the back pew. I went to a small Baptist church in a small town Arkansas. So the small of the small of the small. And I just remember having this reckoning moment with both my own pride and kind of rebellion.
And what age was this?
I mean, I'm probably like 13 or 14.
Middle school, you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had started pursuing the way of the world pretty hard by that point. I mean, some of my friend group really started going down the wrong path, like late elementary school, it felt like. And so the reckoning was just like my rebellion and getting caught in lies, the weight of guilt, I just remember like feeling so tired of that, tired of living like that. And then all I sensed was like a savior. Like I was picking up on the message of forgiveness, and not just forgiveness, but reconciliation. I wouldn't have had that language for it, but like
something you just felt. Something triggered in a song, or a moment?
I was paying attention to the lyrics we were singing. I was paying attention to my youth pastor when he was teaching. I just, hadn't put it all together yet. And in that moment, I felt I wasn't on stage. I wasn't, like I mentioned, the back pew. I just sensed what Jesus is offering me is exactly what I need, and is exactly what my way out of this like lifestyle that I could. By that point in my life, I could tell it was not going to lead in a great direction. And so I just, in as few words as like just Jesus save me, I just started praying him right there on that back pew. And then, it wasn't developed out. Then I had conversations with my youth pastor, my parents, my pastor, got super involved in the church at that point. And the biggest thing was like feeling my desires shift to not like I became a stand-up citizen at that point, but like feeling my desires shift, and I wanted to be involved in my youth group. I wanted to learn the scriptures, and just that progression of like tangible effect of God's grace in your life,
Boy, that's a great phrase, isn't it?
Yeah.
I would really echo that experience. When I started hanging out with, there's a kid that I used to get high with in junior high. Man, we smoked a lot, and he just turned out to be a little backslidden Baptist boy.
Yeah.
And he got his life right with Jesus and got the whole youth group praying for his little lost friend, John Chisholm. And I'm here because of him. I'm here because of the prayers of that youth group.
Yep.
And when I went on a youth trip with them, and man, I remember it so vividly. I had actually been singing in church because I was a voice major,
Yeah.
and the voice instructors had me go singing in churches, but I didn't know what I was singing at all. And I'd be out getting stoned, till 2 and 3 in the morning on Saturday night
Yeah.
and go and do my gig, And David got the kids praying for me and invited me on this little musical tour. And the first night on it, this little gray-headed spirit-filled lady pulled me down in a pew afterwards, and she said, "You need Jesus really bad." And man, it was shift of desire and priorities, something that you can't even explain.
Yep.
That was Paul called it being transformed, or that being translated from the kingdom of darkness to the kingdom of light. That all these years later, and all that I've been able to do with music and all of this, to be sitting here with you today is because of the prayers of those kids. So never give up on praying for people who need to know this transformational power.
Yeah, amen to that. Yeah, and it's so interesting too, like when you have these experiences, if you will, and then my journey would then, like, I would discover, I'm like, oh, Ezekiel talked about being given a new heart. I'm like, that's what it felt like happened. Yeah, I felt like I was given a new heart.
Right.
Suddenly I'm desiring things toward Jesus and his kingdom that 2 weeks ago I could have cared less about.
Yeah, right?
And I think that's part of the beauty of, the Holy Spirit coming to live inside of you and change you slowly but surely. But a lot of those seeds, I mean, I think there's always been something about worship music to me, coming from those moments of like my early years of the faith and even songwriting, because I just kind of started naturally writing worship songs were the first songs that I wrote. And to this day are still my favorite type of songs to write. And I think there's something, I don't know what, something tied back to my developmental years of coming to follow Jesus,
and it really began with that experience.
That being tied to music.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And today being release day, congratulations again. It's so powerful. I've been going through the record.
Thank you.
Over and over and over, and I just got stuck on Now and Not Yet.
Yep.
And so, is that something you're prepared to do?
Yeah, I'd
and
be
it's
glad
a lot
to.
of words. Can you remember all the lyrics?
Totally. I can pull them up maybe.
Oh, well, Aaron, man, thanks so much for being here, and just really appreciate your heart. And congratulations. Of course, we love the Shanes, and just excited about 10K Fam, Dwell, worship initiatives. So we're going to be watching for some more great things to come. So let's do this song.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
You're the God of the breakthrough and the God of not yet. The same God who parts the sea leads me into the wilderness. You're the healer of every wound, yet were wounded yourself. So I'll trust you, I'll trust you, I'll trust you in the now but not yet. In the now but not yet. And you're the God of our victory and the God of our defeats. The same God who makes a way draws in close as he comforts me. You're the king over everything, thy servant unto death. So I'll trust you, I'll trust you, I'll trust you in the now but not yet. Ooh, the now but not yet. You're the God of my future and the God of my past. The same God who formed me then is still forming me inside out. You're the potter and I'm the clay until I breathe my last. I'll trust you, I'll trust you, I'll trust you. Yes, I'll trust you, I'll trust you, I'll trust you. Oh God, I'll trust you, I'll trust you, I'll trust you in the now but not yet. In the now but not yet.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the show today. I hope that you'll jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com and check out all the resources there to encourage you in your own songwriting. And if you like what we're doing, why not share this episode out on your socials? You can find the link in the show notes. We'll see you next time.